Besides, you're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
Let's get you out of here, Buzz.
Don't you get it? You see the hat? I am Mrs. Nesbit.
Snap out of it, Buzz.
Look what I got. I got a jar of dirt. I got a jar of dirt. And guess what's inside it?
Taking my life, Usul. It is the only way.
I'm pointing the way!
I've really got to get you out of those clothes
Excuse me?
and into a black dress. Tell me, Doctor, do you like the circus?
Congratulations, you're back with another episode of Get a Load of This Movie, a franchise movie podcast where we talk about movies that are a part of a franchise, and usually that means 3 movies or more. Today, though, that means something a little bit different. As you know, we have been doing our Summer Spielberg Alien Spectacular. Is that what we decided on the name?
Spielberg Alien Spectacular. Or Spielberg Alien Extravaganza, sorry.
And today we will be finishing that extravaganza. We'll be finishing that extravaganza with Disclosure Day, 2026 Disclosure Day, the newest movie out in theaters right now. And if you're listening to this when it is out in theaters, go see it now. Highly, highly recommend seeing this movie in theaters. It was a fun one to watch. Now, I forgot. My name is Corey. I was about to get us into it. My name is Corey.
Hey, what's up? I'm Cole.
And I'm Zach.
And we're just going to get into it because, you know what, as we mentioned, actually, no, this one's coming out before. We are recording both Toy Story 5 and Disclosure Day today, so I'm explaining that here again. So we've kind of already gone through the motions a little bit, so this one's going to be us putting in a neutral and just kind of us letting us drift down the
We're just so good at podcasting now that we don't need to try.
Yeah.
So if you thought if you didn't like us before, this one's going to be...
You're definitely not going to like us now.
Pack a lunch.
Yeah, it's okay, though, because most of us have been just putting in neutral since the start, so that's good. You know, so it might just be no different. I'm just kidding. But we do have a go-around question. Zach, you saw the movie first out of the 3 of us, and you sent out the shared document where we keep all of our notes, thoughts, and deepest secrets. Can you tell us the intro, the question that you wanted to ask?
So, what old director, maybe the English grammar would dictate I say which old director, and by that I'm defining it as has made a movie before 1985. Would you be most excited for a new movie from today? Like blah 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 shot a movie in secret and it's dropping right now. Which director who has made a movie before 1985 would you be most excited for?
Not Spielberg, I'm assuming. Spielberg.
Well, yeah, honestly, if that's your guy, then you can clarify that. If you want to bring up another name just for the sake of conversation, go ahead. But if that's your answer, then you can say that. It's not mine.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead?
Okay.
Probably.
Mine is, and it's going to seem so obvious. There's 2 big obvious ones for me, but I'll take one of them. And if the other obvious one goes unsaid, then I'll say it at the end. For me, specifically, Sam Raimi. First Evil Dead came out 81, so that easily falls under the pre-1985. He was a youngin' then, so, you know, he's not as old as these other geezers that we might bring up here. He's in his early 60s, maybe mid-60s. So, wait, no, he is mid-60s. He's definitely mid-60s, actually. Sorry, whoops. Either way, he's my answer. I like Send Help a lot this year, and I'm really excited for whatever he does next. I think he's doing a remake of like a killer ventriloquist puppet movie from the 70s. Can't wait to see what that looks like with him. That just seems right up his alley. He's producing the new Evil Dead movie that comes out next week. I'm all in on Sam Raimi still. Yep, Evil Dead Burn.
I honestly expected you to say John Carpenter. I don't know if he really
I also thought
is directing anymore, but
he's
I
not.
figured...
That's why he was not my answer. And also, all love to my boy. If this ever lands on his desk, I didn't mean this. I'm joking with people right now. His last couple movies, not so hot in my view. So
Vampires
with Amber. No, that was
Mars.
Ghosts of Mars is a tough set. I think that's probably my least favorite John Carpenter movie. And then The Ward was just kind of a flat little last film from him with Amber Heard.
Okay, fair enough. I just figured I'd,
That's
say
fine. No, that's a
that
fine suggestion. What's your answer, Cole? I'd rather hear that.
because right now I'm going generic, and I'd say Scorsese because Marty don't miss.
Good answer.
It's
is a good
just
answer.
plain and simple. Marty don't miss. Really have to think.
I'm excited for his next movie a lot. That's a good answer. You don't have to like. That's a great
don't have
answer.
to go-
Honestly, I
yeah.
kind of forgot about him actually.
Because
Somehow.
like I said, he just consistently hits. I mean, and he goes into a different bag somewhat each time, which I really appreciate. He's not a guy who is going to make the same film over and over and over.
I like Killers of the Flower Moon a lot. That was his last movie, right?
Yeah.
I still need to see that.
That's a good
one.
movie.
I
It's
still
a little
need to
long.
see that.
I have a little bit of an issue with just kind of how the POV that we take in that movie. And I think there's maybe a better version of it that could have been made, but the one that we got is still really good. So that's a
I
great
was
answer.
a big fan of The Irishman. I know not a lot of people were, but
People didn't like The Irishman?
it was also another one of those it was too long type things because it was a 3-hour plus movie. That's why he only does streaming movies now because he knows nobody's going to the theater for him.
It's just not true. That's a lie. I don't believe in that.
I'll go.
Right. Make a good
I saw
movie.
Killers of the
People
Flower
go
Moon
to
in
the
theaters.
theaters.
That one got put to theaters. His next
I
one's a
think-
Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence like ghost movie, I think.
Let's see.
But I think it might
I
be for Apple TV.
I
Yeah,
think-
it is. It's
I bet it
what
goes to
happens
theaters, though.
at night. A married couple travel to a small town
We
to
don't have to go-
adopt
we
a
have-
baby. As they struggle to claim
we
their
don't- we don't.
baby, they seem to know less about themselves.
I'm
Are
gonna
we
say
reviews on this movie here?
I'm gonna say that mine is Steven Spielberg. I've been looking at. I wanted to go last because I've been looking, and honestly, James Cameron, that'll get me a little bit excited. I mean, the ones you guys mentioned will
That
get
was the other
me
name.
will get me excited. But it's just like if I see a Steven Spielberg movie, it's like like with James Cameron, it's like that's gonna be an Avatar, you know, and that's exciting in and of itself. John Carpenter, you see that, and you're like, okay, that's exciting as well. Like there are excitement to it, but like Steven Spielberg. I was excited about Disclosure Day before I like really knew anything about it because of Steven Spielberg was like it was his movie back in like 2024 when we didn't even really I don't even know if we knew the name of it at that point, you know? And maybe we did, or maybe we just like had Steven Spielberg alien untitled movie and it was like that's all I needed. You can call it that. I'll go buy a ticket right now for it, you know? So I think I don't really have anything else that really surpasses that, and I think it's him for me.
Well, Cameron,
I did want to say like a second just fun mention would be I just saw the
Can't be that
George
fun.
Miller because I know I'm getting another Mad Max movie if he's directing another movie.
that's a good point. But I would love another Mad Max movie. Furiosa grew on me a lot on the second watch. I want to say about James Cameron though is like he would be my answer if you told me it wasn't an Avatar movie. If you told me it was his first non-Avatar movie since Titanic, that would easily be my answer. And the Billie Eilish concert experience, I didn't catch it. I wanted to. That doesn't count in this type of conversation.
He directed
Even
that.
though he directed. Yeah, he did.
He's
Isn't
so
that fun?
talented. He's so
I
multi-talented.
know.
The fact that
So-
he took a break from making these movies just to be like, hey, Billy, let me direct this.
I think, and this is me speculating, I do not know the man at all, of course. I think he would want to not direct Avatar 4 if he felt it was in good hands, and he would want to just do something else. Because I think he
But no
also
one
wants
could
to
do
make
it.
that atomic bomb like Fallout movie, or just like the response to it, like from a Japanese perspective. I think that's like his next non-Avatar project. I'd rather if you told me that movie
Is he actually
dropping,
making that?
I think he's like he bought the book rights. That doesn't really mean he's locked into making it, but you know, if James Cameron finds the time, I would assume it's going to happen. I think if he's not doing Avatar 4, so that I would want that. I would head and shoulders want that over Avatar 4 from James Cameron. So
I
That's
have
my
a
answer.
fun other side to this. What director pre-1985 release that you see now and you see this person's name on a movie that you're like, why is he still making movies? Like least excited for, if you could think of a name. Because I have one off the top of my head.
then share that because this is mean.
It took me
Robert
so
Zemeckis.
That's so mean. What did Back to the Future ever do to you?
I'm saying like now, like everything he makes is like CGI dribble that still uses the somewhat uncanny valley.
Yeah.
And he has, Zach and I had this conversation with the Drews the other day, and it's musicians lose their touch. Directors can lose their touch too. And I think, well, it sucks to say because he's made some movies that I really do love. He has lost his touch.
Okay. I don't really know if I have one, so we could just, Zach, if you have one, you can say it, but if not, we can move on to the action.
So I'm the mean one.
Well, no, Cole,
yeah,
I don't
you
disagree
came up with
because
it.
I did, the way I looked for my list is I went to my letterbox and I went from 1984 and 1980. I looked at each specific year and looked at my top rated films. I was like, now which one of these directors like is still like making a movie that I would want to see now? And Back to the Future obviously came up for, like 85 or 84, whatever it was. And I was just like, he's not going to be my pick. I did know that he was still making movies, so he was absolutely an option. And I easily putting him behind the other names we mentioned. So you're not wrong. Go ahead and describe what happened in the movie.
On to the action.
Even the opening scene, there's always some random girl who gets a call that undoubtedly ends up getting her killed. It's also predictable. There's no element of surprise. You can see everything coming. Ah!
Did that surprise you?
Why?
Because you talk too much. Now shut the fuck up and watch the movie.
Cole, I remember this movie very vividly, so I'm going to be paying attention. If you mess up, I'm gonna get mad and step in.
You're gonna get me.
I watched this movie 3 weeks ago today, so this is
Zach really needs the
probably the
summary.
latest I've talked about a movie after having watched it. Yeah, I really need the summary.
As the world nears World War III, I don't know why that. Cybersecurity expert Daniel Kellner steals secret files and alien technology from the powerful Wardex Corporation. Wardex CEO Noah Scanlon pursues Daniel, who escapes with his girlfriend Jane Blankenship and hides at her former convent. NBC meteorologist Margaret Fairchild suddenly develops psychic abilities after a strange encounter with a cardinal. Go Cardinals! Including telepathy and the ability to speak an unknown extraterrestrial language. Margaret's live broadcast in the alien language goes viral, attracting Wardex, which realizes she has a connection to the extraterrestrials. Daniel reveals that Wardex has been secretly imprisoning aliens and reverse engineering their technology, while Scanlon uses alien technology to mentally control Jane. Margaret rescues Daniel from a secret Wardex facility using her empathic powers, and the two narrowly escape together. They join Hugo Wakefield and former Wardex employees who reveal that Daniel and Margaret were both abducted by aliens as children and given complementary psychic abilities. The group plans to expose the truth about extraterrestrial life by broadcasting evidence from Margaret's television station despite Wardex's attempts to stop them. Jane helps the mission by giving Margaret an alien device that restores the station's power, prompting Scanlon to abandon the cover-up. Daniel releases decades of classified alien footage to the world. An extraterrestrial appears live on television. Global tensions begin to ease, and Margaret delivers the alien's simple message to humanity. Listen.
I do want to talk about that. That's interesting that you thought that was the full message, because there's kind of some ambiguity to that. But good explanation. Thank you, Cole. Off the bat, I really like this movie. There was one thing I wanted to talk about in the intro that I mentioned, I believe during Toy Story 4, that I was like, oh, we could talk about this, but then I was like, oh, if it's about Disclosure Day, so I'm just going to bring it up during Disclosure Day. But it was do you guys think that there's a theory going around, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it, that Steven Spielberg was let in early about a plan to let everyone know about aliens, and this was just to prime the world about it. And I was
hell of a way to do it.
And so I was like, and that's why I was like, that's going to be my intro question. Like, do we think this is real? Like, do we think that this is going to, but I wanted to adjust it because when I was watching the movie, not that I believe in that theory whatsoever, but the moment that we're in right now and like hearing about and like watching this movie, it had an impact. And so it's, extraterrestrial stories have been around for decades, and the movies that talking about aliens visiting Earth have been around just as long, But right now we're seeing a lot of politicians, we're seeing a lot of military officials talk about their alien stories, and there are a lot of tensions going on. As Cole said, in the movie, there was this threat of World War III. There are a lot of tensions around the world going on. So it did feel very connected to where we are right now. And I was wondering if that kind of background that they paint in the movie, if that affected your watch of it or your feelings about it at all, or affected that last sequence when we're going through all the newscasts. Did that how did the world now affect your watch of this movie? Zach, you shook your head immediately once I said it, so you can go first. It didn't affect you whatsoever, is what you're saying.
We don't get political on this podcast.
It's not politics. It's not
political.
Yeah,
I don't think the movie was specific enough about what's going on in the background, at least in terms of the turmoil of the world, for me to really think about it more beyond just background set dressing for the overall setting, like just so it can be addressed at the end. It never really affected what's going on during the movie beyond here's the laying out the world at the beginning, and here's how we're interrupting this coverage at the end for the disclosure on the news. So on that, we're not going to do that bit today. We're not going to do it. On that aspect, I don't think it affected me much. The alien disclosure itself, in terms of like, oh, did Spielberg know? I believe that Spielberg probably has been told credibly that there are aliens. I do believe that. I also, now my flip side of that is I found myself not caring as much as even still believing that. Like, even though I do believe that, I don't think it affected me much while watching it, because I believe in aliens. It's not really, I feel like from about high school on, I've been pretty like 75 for like in my own head, like I probably believe in aliens. So this movie didn't really like reframe my worldview, even if I did take it at face value. Now we can get into that, because I feel like just because we're here, we're talking about it. Did the big disclosure that we're trying to prevent at the end, and then when it finally, or the bad guys are trying to prevent, that the main characters are working so hard to ensure, did it live up to all the hullabaloo throughout the whole film, trying to get it done or trying to block it? Like what we find out at the end of the movie, did that justify, you think, all the entire plot of the film?
Are you asking?
Yeah, I was going to say,
question.
Do we want to?
Oh, I thought it was rhetorical.
I think it did.
You do?
I personally think it did. I think all the hullabaloo we went through, all like what they were going through. At first, it did not feel like it was going, like it felt like things were being so built up that I was like, you can't. It didn't feel like you were going to have a very satisfying ending based on what was going on, and that it was just going to be like a whoa and like a thought experiment almost. But I think the news going out and that whole sequence of, I don't know how realistic that is. I don't know if, let's say for some, like, if something like this does happen where like Whistleblower does release a bunch of videos, like real world that happens. I don't know if that actually gets picked up by the national news and like all the national, like every single news source is talking about information that's being released. I don't know how realistic that is. And that's fine. It doesn't need to be realistic, but the impact and the wave, it's just the waves of like that, it's sped up time, but in more realistically. It's not saying like, over the next few months everyone started learning about it, covering it, and it was a very legit story. But that whole sequence, I felt like I was about to have an anxiety attack. I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my god, like it was crazy.
I was emotional. I thought it was beautiful.
Well, but like not an anxiety attack like this is bad, but I was just, like more of like it felt so real and it felt like it was happening to me. Like it felt like I was watching that newscast with everyone else, you know, like with all those people that were standing outside the TV, the stores with all the TVs in the windows. I don't know how I don't think they have those anymore, but like everyone on the train and they're all looking at their phones like, oh my gosh, this is happening. And I was like, oh, like, what if like it doesn't have to be this, but I was like, oh my gosh, like I couldn't even imagine something so huge happening and I'm just in such a public place like that, like how that would affect like all like my thinking about it. And like I kind of went down that rabbit hole in my head. But it was beautiful, cool. It was, because you just saw a bunch of people, like you saw people coming together. The World War III backdrop to it all, they didn't really dive into a ton.
Russian guy was watching his phone, remember? He was looking his phone.
I just mean like he probably could have taken that completely out of the story and nothing changes. And so it's like, I don't know how much that needed to be in there or how much that affected me in particular. But I think it was worth it. I was nervous about it being like enough of an ending while I was watching all of that build up though. So I can see your point, Zach.
Zach, what was your question again? Because I want to.
Did the disclosure, what we find out, what we see at the end, did that justify all the build up to it? I mean, it is the titular disclosure day.
I would wholeheartedly say yes, because, you know, the hullabaloo, as we talked about during E.T., it wasn't massive. It wasn't like the whole world government was trying to stop them. It was a small sect of people against a small sect of people, which, as we talked about in Stranger Things, as it was, they thought it was in the 80s, everything was this super big thing. The king of the 80s himself really didn't direct movies like that. And I think by keeping it in a more intimate, smaller group setting, yes, there is a company going against this like small branch of people, but I think it is the perfect amount of people to focus on in order to have this big disclosure, and that a small group, what's the quote? Never forget, a small group of individuals like can change the world. You know, and that's really this.
I like a good whistleblower story. I like a good journalism, and like the power of journalism and, you know, giving information to the people. I'm on the side of the people who release the info.
Yeah.
And I do like that this movie addresses should we, even not from like this government, this sinister government agency, like the world
from a woman, but like from a person. It was Jane.
Like this will shake the foundation of people's belief systems. Like that's an interesting topic too, and we can talk more about that in a second. I do want to say, I think the footage itself that we see, I liked it, and I do think that the torture of these aliens was hard to watch. I think that would be pretty heavy to see. So in that way, yes, I do think it worked. I think just the overall conversation of aliens are real. Maybe I'm letting how I feel bleed into it too much with my overall consensus of the world, but I feel like it would not shake us as much as this movie seems to think it is. And it's mainly because I feel like if you had asked me 15 years ago, I would have had a different answer. And that's why this movie almost feels like it came 10 years too late or something. But I feel like now, just all the stuff going on in the world and like just kind of what our day-to-day lives are like and the stuff that you see every day on your phone, just the insanity and the stuff that happens. It doesn't feel like aliens being a part of it would really be the craziest thing. I feel like we do crazier things than just the existence of aliens every day. And I'm not even trying to like get on a soapbox or anything. I'm just saying I think might be a little bit too desensitized to like things now that I see on the news now would seem crazy to me 10 years ago. And I don't think aliens would really stand out too much more than the stuff that I already, that we see all the time.
I mean, and even to add on to that, we talked about this whole whistleblower idea. The United States had a man, and Edward Snowden came out and he said, "You are all being watched." For the life of me, I can't remember what day that took place on. I mean, yes, granted I was quite young. Yeah, but I don't, like, that was not like a big thing. My parents weren't like talking about that at the dinner table. So
trying to cover it up, trying to sweep it under the rug.
They're trying not to let the boy know the truth. But like that being said, it speaks to Zach's point that yes, this probably wouldn't shake the world, but I think it would have a larger impact than we think it would, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I think there's a
I'm open to
middle
that.
ground to that, you know, I think Spielberg does want us to believe that if aliens were real, it could heal us, because like that's their whole thing is empathy. They have the power to bring empathy, and that's what those videos did. They brought empathy to people. You saw people covering their mouths and about to cry. I really think there is more of a middle ground that could have been portrayed, that could have been slightly more realistic. But that being said, it's Hollywood. Let's play it up, you know?
Let me be clear. If I saw an alien being tortured to death on a video, I think that video would still be very disturbing to me. I don't think it would really change how I live my day-to-day life, is all I'm saying. Now, if it was something like the aliens in They Live, or in Men in Black, which is like, oh, they're living among us and they're hiding among us, portraying themselves as humans, that's different. That would be completely different. And also, I don't believe that. I believe in the alien conspiracy that Disclosure Day presents. I actually do believe that. I don't believe that they're living among us as human beings, like in suits and robots and all that.
So, Zach, I have a question for you then. Since this is something that you more side on, and you think this is something that's more realistic and might even be the thing that's going to happen at some point in time, how did you feel about that last sequence then, when they're telling everyone, when they're like it's being disclosed, like the title moment is happening?
Yes.
And like there, it's like Cole said, it's beautiful. I said I felt exactly like that is probably the part of the movie that invoked the most emotion.
I agree.
And so how did you feel during that part?
I did like that scene a lot, and I liked the footage a lot. I think they made, the director, Spielberg, the writer, the cinematographer, all the stuff of the footage itself, I liked a lot. It was just its overall impact for the whole movie that I was like, I don't know. It was, maybe it's just because the whole movie didn't coalesce for me the way I wanted it to, that I was asking, did it justify it? But the footage itself, the disclosure, I in a vacuum, I really enjoyed all that. And I think the news anchor is getting, the actress who plays her is getting a lot of justified like praise, on at least on like the Twitter circles that I saw.
She was great. She was great.
Yeah, that was great. I think that was handled really well and directed really well. I think kind of like the big climax of it all, of just like the government's pulling up and they're trying to stop us and they're trying to cut the power, and all the little like tension that they try to build there. I think I was just ready to just, let's get that stuff done. That was not very exciting to me. It was just kind of like the standard thriller element of it leading up to that. That's what I was getting bored with. And I wish we just kind of maybe got to this quick sooner. I don't know. I mean, here's the thing is I still wanted to see them. I recognize that it didn't feel as satisfying as it should have to me. But also, I didn't come out of it feeling like angry or anything. I kind of wanted to see the movie again, even though I recognize I didn't love it. Spoiler alert for the review section. I don't know. It felt like the different ingredients didn't all come together for me in a way, even though the ingredient itself of the disclosure I really liked.
Yeah.
So
I am willing to forgive the, all like the little things that the government is trying to do to stop it, because it's really not about that. Once Colin Firth realizes he can't stop it, he's just like, let's let it happen and see what happens. But I think also in his mind, there's that quote from Men in Black. And
he's thinking about Will Smith.
Well, him and Jay are on the bench and Kay is explaining to him, the person is smart. People are dumb. And that's Colin Firth's argument throughout the movie. But Coleman Domingo, his idea is like, no, this could heal us. And I think seeing him kind of like give up, and it's like, are you not gonna do anything? and then just walks away. Felt like we building to the point where it was the broadcast was kind of just where we needed to get to. I was willing to forgive that moment because it really was about the disclosure.
Sure. Well, those are the little things, though. But I mean, like, even the whole subplot of Emily Blunt, witnessing an alien as a child, like that, and as a concept, cool. I just think the way it might be the execution, where it's just like, again, we don't need to make a discussion of it because we've done it a million times. But like, I didn't give a shit about these CGI animals. Like that was kind of like whatever to me. I will actually go a slight negative for this movie. I didn't like the look of this movie that much. I think this is kind of
the visuals. I remember one of the alien videos they showed, like others looked really good, but there was like one specific one where it's like sitting against a box, and I'm like, it just didn't look good. And
I don't mean even that. Well, I think the animals definitely didn't, but like, I mean, like even like the color grading and the lighting of this movie, I'm just not. I think this movie lands better for me if he made an effort to shoot it like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And by that, I mean, E.T. and Close Encounters work really well because it feels like it's grounded in our reality. This didn't feel like our reality. This didn't feel like our day-to-day life because it's just not shot that way.
But there were wrestlers.
I think that opening wrestling shot, that POV opening wrestling shot, was not a fan of that. That was kind of a opening to me, and I didn't like that. That felt
we
gimmicky.
were dropped in to that.
Yeah, maybe you could say, look how violent humans can be to each other. We need empathy, and that's the lesson at the end. But wrestling is not the way to do that because that's just like a sport. It's a sport. I don't know. I think that's kind of the stuff where I almost detached a bit and kind of lost the emotion of the movie. Kind of got away from me a bit there because I was just taken out of it a little bit. And I remember I said I liked the look because this looks a lot like War of the Worlds, different movie, different tone. And I liked it in War of the Worlds because the whole movie has to feel like something is wrong. Like this is bad. This is not the tone that we're trying to go for here with Disclosure Day. And I think it wants to, out of all the movies we discussed so far in terms of the Spielberg alien movies, this is thematically, it's most similar to Close Encounters. I mean, easily over the other two. I think it would have benefited more to be closer to that. I also do think that in terms of like the two main characters that are being thrust into this, who have no idea about it. I'm not saying Josh O'Connor because we meet him and he's already aware of it. It's Emily Blunt and then Josh O'Connor's girlfriend. I do think that Josh O'Connor's girlfriend character, what's her name?
Jane.
I didn't really think her character was as interesting. I think Emily Blunt does, a lot of the heavy lifting of the movie, and she's the star of the movie. I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
I wasn't going on the Roy journey with Jane, or the Elliot journey or the Ray journey with Jane. I was kind of like, all right, let's get this going.
I do have a quick question on the topic of Close Encounters. I was leaving this movie and I thought, is this as close as we will get to a sequel to Close Encounters? Because you look at the way the ships are designed, he always does. He picked like the same alien design too. I think that guy with the long legs was the guy we saw first come out of the ship at the end of Close Encounters. That's my headcanon. But
fine.
Yeah.
I think it's designed that way to where you could assume that. And also because again, in Close Encounters, that's all hidden. The public doesn't know about that. Only a select few people know about that. So I could buy that. I think I'm sure there's some really nitpicky way to like say discredit that it's the same canon that I don't care or know about, but yeah, that's fine with me.
So I understand what you're saying. I actually didn't think the way that it was shot necessarily took me out of it, or that it didn't reflect like day-to-day life really. I mean, it was a little bit more saturated, I think it was like in a bit
overblown, blown out. A lot more lens flares, very J.J. Abrams Star Trek looky.
Yeah, JJ. I thought there was a little bit of. I saw when they were in the back alley of the wrestling match. I was like, it almost kind of looks like Michael Bay color a little bit. Not that extreme by any means, but like just a tiny bit. So I didn't think that took me out of it at all. I think that kind of made me a little bit more on edge, and I think this movie kind of wanted you to be on edge, and so I think that's why it was doing that. It's like Close Encounters, E.T. Those are more of like what happens when aliens kind of come into day-to-day life. You know, this is more of like, I think this is closer to War of the Worlds tone-wise, and it's trying to transfer that tone from War of the Worlds to an E.T. or a Close Encounters tone. So I think starting there and having that kind of color scheme and that kind of look, I think it works for what this movie is overall, because like I said, I think that's what it's going for. But also the confusion of it all, like, I don't think it wants us to be necessarily relaxed and like we're in just a day to day. Like, it starts off in a wrestling match and you see a lot of like very like it's very jarring at from the very start. So I think they're trying to make you on edge, and I think that's purposeful. So I didn't really mind that part of it all, and I thought it kind of fit with the tone, honestly. Going off
Okay, wait, really quick on that one point. I agree with you there that it's not supposed to be like a comforting feeling. What I meant by that was just like, it doesn't feel like real life in the sense so that when I'm not putting myself in these shoes as much as I am with Roy or Elliot, because I was singing all the praises of how those movies looked and how War of the Worlds looked because it was a different tone. But I feel like this is going for more of that, at least the wonder that because we do it a million times, just for lack of a better word, there's the awe that Spielberg wants this to be of like, oh, aliens, isn't this insane? This is how amazing these aliens are. I would feel that more if I felt like I could relate to the aesthetic of this movie or the setting of this movie. And it's not just this guy doesn't live where I live. It's just like, this doesn't look like it doesn't look like reality in the way that and honestly, most movies these days don't. So honestly, that just might be where we are. And it might be maybe I'm doing a film versus digital argument here without even realizing it, and I'm stupid, but like that was just like I didn't connect to what was happening in front of me as much as I did with those original two Spielberg alien movies.
Yeah, and I'm not taking that away. I'm just I also don't know if we were necessarily supposed to be like with Roy and Elliot. I 100% think that we were supposed to put ourselves in their shoes, and I think you're right with that. I don't know if that's what we were necessarily supposed to say, like, oh, I can relate to this guy, because it's, as we see it, he's gone through stuff that we couldn't even imagine, and he's kind of in a world that we can't even imagine. So I don't think that was also the goal. And I think if it was, I have enough belief in Spielberg that he would have made a different choice if he wanted you to, you know? So I understand, but I also don't think that took away from the movie in my aspect, or from my perspective. I wanted to talk about Jane a little bit because it kind of helps me transition to the next point that I wanted to talk about with the overall religious tone of this movie and how it does play into a lot of it. I feel like this movie kind of takes you in through a journey of like where you go, how like a disclosure day would affect the people, you know? And I think so it starts out very jarring, very crazy, and you're running around and you're trying to escape. Like, they're in that car chase, they're trying to get away, you know, they're doing whatever they can. And I think, and right after that, you go to a convent. And I think that is very reflective on what a ton of people would do. You know, Zach, I know you said like you're probably in the camp of people that believe that this is pretty close to what aliens are going to be. And so when this gets announced, or if this ever gets announced, or when this ever happens, it's not going to surprise you too much because you already like believe that, okay, that makes sense. But like her struggles, Jane's struggles, like that when that conversation she has with the nun about like, what does this mean? Like, how does this affect our religion? Like, how am I supposed to find any sort of comfort in this thing that I've found comfort in my entire life? You know, like, how is this supposed to help me? I think, not trying to answer any questions, I really liked the approach they took. I'm not personally very religious myself, so I can't say that was very comforting to me, you know, so I can only speak of like, I appreciated the way they went about it, and it, like, to me, it felt very realistic. I don't know if it actually says that in the Bible, but, you know, if it does, cool. That's nice.
Yeah,
that'd be really cool. That'd be really cool if that's what it actually says.
Do you remember that one verse though in Numbers where it says aliens exist?
Oh yeah, they
didn't bring that one up in this one.
No, they didn't. That was too nail on the head. But I feel like Jane was more of a conduit of seeing that side of it, you know, and kind of going through the natural progression of how, like, you know, how people as a whole would deal with something like this. Because I don't know if a lot, like, maybe people believe that aliens might be out there, but if it's exposed that they actually are, I honestly think that would change like 70% of the worldview for most people, like 70% of people's worldview. So I think like going through that journey with her, and I'm not saying she holds any sort of a light to to Emily Blunt at all. Like, Emily Blunt is amazing in this movie. But I'm just saying, like, I think the story that she was a part of was one that I'm glad was something they talked about, because if not, it would have been a question that someone, like, people would have asked, and I think it would have been forced upon the movie indirectly. Not one that I don't think I would have engaged in that, but I think overall that would have been a conversation that was going to be forced upon the movie. And instead it answered it for itself, you know, and then you could focus on that last scene being very impactful in the way that it's going to be impactful for you, you know?
Yeah, totally. I was really appreciated that we did look at the possible implications there, because I think that is a very interesting question that a lot of alien movies, just by the nature of what they are, because a lot of them are alien invasion movies, don't have time to slow down and ask. Maybe you'll see some people praying in a church. Yeah. You know, in War of the Worlds, there's like when the tripod comes out of the ground, one of the first things you see is the church shatter. There on the street.
Steven Spielberg's so good. I didn't even think about that. That's so good.
Aliens are here. God's dead.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Do enjoy. So that tells you that what was on his mind then. I do like that we have that heady theme here in this, you know, blockbuster movie. Go ahead, Cole. Sorry.
But I think, you know, his is the optimistic view of that, you know, you can believe in more than one thing, which I think is good. It's good. But I think we also have to think of the sheltered and those people who just wouldn't be able to handle it. Because, you know, Jane's whole thing is like, she didn't stop believing in God. She just knew she couldn't be a nun because, in her words, she felt that God wasn't truly divine. And she feels like it's not like a favor to the church to be a nun if you don't truly believe that. So I think Jane is not, while I really did like Eve Hewson's performance, I don't think Jane is like the right person to, like, that's like the right perspective to try and like shift, if that makes sense, because you do it in almost too short of a time. And I think it's more of a script issue than anything, in like the way, because we don't get like enough like moments with her to make me believe that she would shift her beliefs so quickly. That makes sense.
Can I push back on that? Because I don't think she's shifting her beliefs. I don't think anything in her changes. I think she is struggling. She kind of talks about, she's kind of have this framework of what religion is to her when she's having this conversation with the nun. I forget what the sister's name is, but like when she's having that conversation, she's like, she's talked about how she's built this framework and she doesn't know how. She doesn't know how aliens or the existence of life outside of Earth fits into it. That's it. Like, she doesn't know. She hasn't thought of it. It hasn't been something that she's been worried about, because going through it, she's been so focused on this other aspect of it. And when she, like you said, she wasn't sure if God was divine. Was that the thing?
Yeah,
that she was struggling with?
Thing.
And when you have but you believe like there is something something out there that's got to be similar to that. When she was approached with something that's like, okay, here's something from the heavens coming down and is real, it's like, oh my gosh. And I could see the conflict, that like how that makes, like, the conflict makes sense as a whole. And I think it wasn't necessarily that she needed to be convinced or her opinion needed to shift. It was more of she needed help fitting this new thing into what she already knew. So I didn't take it as like she needed this whole big character shift. I didn't take it as that whatsoever. I took it as more of like it was, she was so confused. She didn't know what was going on. She had just had this huge news, this world, this secret from the world, like, presented to her, and it's like, well, I feel like anyone would struggle with that, you know, if someone,
absolutely,
like,
yeah.
If friend of the pod Jake Thompson, who works for the government, like, if he came to me and he was like, Corey, I have to tell you something, and then we're gonna kiss, I would say like, okay, well, can we skip the first part? But if he said like, I'm gonna show you something, and it's like this big worldly secret, I think I would struggle with it too, and I would need help fitting it into my worldview. And I would go to the people that I rely on. I would go to my members of my family. I would go to friends and say, like, I need help because I don't know.
Wouldn't come to us.
No, I wouldn't be able to. But that, like, I feel like that's a very similar journey that she's going on. Where I was going to say it again, but I don't need to. That's just how I feel.
No, that's completely fair. That was just my take on it.
No, it's fair. I just think you're wrong.
So, Steven.
Oh, Steven.
Steven.
Does he still got it? Can you tell that this is a Spielberg vehicle?
The sauce is there.
I was about to say, I think that was in my Letterboxd reviews, that you can still tell that Steven still has some of that sauce with some of the way these sequences are directed. I'm going to say yes, I can tell this is a Spielberg film, and I think it's what we talked about a lot in War of the Worlds, I want to say, which is the blocking. A lot of he can tell a story with the camera with the best of them still. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the different shots, I remember a lot of different times in this movie, I looked at my friend Francisco, who I saw it with, and I said, "Oh, Steven, did you have to do it to us again?" And it was just like, he really, the way it's not like, oh, the composition of this one shot is just angelic. Wow, what a painting on my screen. It's the way that the camera will move around that makes it so impressive.
Yeah, I agree. There were multiple times where I was like, where the camera movement, I think when Daniel, is that the main cat's name? Yeah, when he was getting into the car, and the camera would like completely go around the car, get in, and then to be involved in the entire like that. I was just like, oh, he's all over the place. There was one part where I specifically noticed, like, okay, that's a Steven Spielberg move right there. But I think it was pretty early on too. And it was zooming into the scene that was shot through like a window of a car. And I feel like a lesser director would have had you know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about the part where she gets pulled over? Are you talking about when Emily Blunt gets pulled over and the fun we're having with mirrors? Fun with mirrors?
That part too, but that wasn't the part I was talking about. But that part too. That part, I feel it there too. But I was talking about a lesser director would have had like the camera just like phase through the window and join the scene with everyone else. But it's like, no, the camera is like almost a part of the scene with everything else. And you have to treat everything like it's there, you know? And like, I appreciated that part and I could see him in there. That was really early on. That was just a small example that I was like, oh, Steven's so back. This is so good. I'm so glad I'm here.
Corey, he's not back. He never left.
I know, but he wasn't.
Don't say things.
The movie I saw before this was Toy Story 5, and so it felt like everyone had left at that point. So
that's fair. I would say yes, and you can tell it's a Spielberg film because he still has his whimsy. You know, he throws his whimsy in some of the best moments. The tracking shot of Emily Blunt entering the studio, and she says like that beautiful thing to the woman. Leave him, call the police. But then she sits down and has a conversation in Korean and gets back up. And she's like that. Like, and also, this was one of my favorite moments. Josh O'Connor, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? Gets out of the car. The camera stays on the car door as he runs, throws his girlfriend in the car. What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing?
We needed that. What am I doing? The what am I doing part, I was watching that and I was thinking in my head, and I'm not pretending to be a big famous screenwriter like David Koepp. He's written some of my favorite films. You know, I'm not disparaging him in his career and his abilities. But in my head, when I was watching that, I'm like, I guess as a screenwriter, you have to have your character say, what am I doing, when they're doing something so completely fucking idiotic. Like, and it's the only way you can find a way to justify it on the page.
It wasn't the fact that he said it once. It was that he was repeatedly saying it after he ran into a house to save someone.
Was a bit.
It wasn't even that.
You know what? I had fun. The car chase
was very fun. But you can tell it's a Spielberg film in that, you know, we say it with him a lot. He's got that Spielberg heart and he puts it in his movies, and you really feel like this guy cares a lot about the filmmaking process, and he cares about these characters. I mean, he did come up with the story for this movie. So
I do feel like you can feel the Spielberg passion in that, and that brings me to the second part of this, is just like his, you know, in conversation with his other Alien movies, like what are the similarities here? And I feel like you do have like, you know, we brought up how this could be like a sort of pseudo sequel to Close Encounter. Sure, it doesn't have to be. It is if you want it to be. We have the same kind of like psychic connection thing going on between some characters and the aliens, and then also the whole message of empathy is kind of what we were talking about with E.T. Like that's the overall thesis is something that he's brought up before in an alien movie. I'm not saying, he's repeating himself and he's getting redundant. I'm just saying it's consistent. So I do feel the Spielberg DNA through all aspects of this movie, visuals and plotting. Yeah.
But he's also willing to like step it up. We've never seen a sequence like the car chase when they're jumping on the train, especially him doing it with a car. Like I was looking at that car and that was very much a real car. I thought that was awesome. But also the introduction to Coleman Domingo's character, and you see this house being built behind him.
He's in the back rooms.
It's slowly coming together. Each time we greet Coleman Domingo, who is a very welcome presence every time he is on screen. Huge Coleman Domingo fan, but I think that is also part of that Spielberg magic. Like he wants you to see what's going on so that when it happens, it's
like a puzzle.
It's kind of a big deal,
I thought the house was going to have a little bit more of an exciting usage.
I will say,
I can kind of sum it up with that whole aspect of the movie is kind of where it was losing me. I'll be honest, that was it.
I really liked the phone calls with the house being built in the background and all that stuff. I'm like, ooh, this house is going to be good. I cannot wait.
I do think Emily Blunt gives her best performance when she's like in front of the house where she's like screaming like, this is my house. This is my life. And someone starts praying to her. She goes, I will not be your religion.
That was interesting. You know what? I liked that. You're right.
That was great.
I was nervous.
Disclosure Day. Boom. Thank you.
I was nervous at that point when that lady gets on her knees and is just like praying. I was like, is that the way this movie's going to go? Is Emily Blunt going to be like a Jesus figure? Is this going to be like a story based on religion? Like, is that, I thought it was really going to take a turn at that point and kind of like really dive into the religion. And so I'm excited that they didn't, but also like, I don't really know that part. Like thinking back on in the moment, I really liked it, but thinking back on it, I'm not sure how that'll fit into the story. Like specifically that character doing that in the moment, because it didn't feel like anyone else was there for that. Like everyone else is probably like, whoa.
What if she said Muad'Dib?
Yeah, then I'd be like, oh, I'm so in. This is great.
I think Zach's exact words would, he'd look over at Francisco and be like, we're so back.
Said Muad'Dib. But yeah, I was kind of hoping that the house was going to be something to like fool someone, and like I thought it was going to be a big gotcha moment. But I don't know. I was just hoping it was going to be something more than we're going to use this to help you remember. It's like, what? That's all it's for? It's like that's what
I remember get abducted by aliens.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, so I could have done with a different usage of that time, but I still enjoyed the mystery of why they were building a house, I guess.
We did also get the more Spielberg whimsy with the visible fire truck sequence and all the guys running into invisible stuff. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't know how much I enjoyed the bars of whatever doing anything you want. That felt
yeah, whatever.
I felt like that was like movie logic of Colin Firth only knows how to use it a certain way.
No, that's fine. I prefer when something does one thing, or like it has
like rules.
Yeah, and these.
What are the rules?
They don't have any rules. I'm okay. Okay, let me backtrack a little bit. I'm okay with them. The bars doing multiple things. I just want it to be clear, like, this is what it's for. And at first, actually for a long while, it's like, okay, this is like a psychokinetic, like this is to connect people and like being able to mind, it's helping make that connection beyond language, and it's just beyond like it that's what it's for. And Colin Firth is using it in a way that is harnessing that power. And even Emily Blunt, when she's holding it and she's like affecting what other people are seeing, I'm like, okay, we're still kind of doing the same thing. That's fine. And then it's like, now it's a power source. And it's like, I honestly felt like that was the easiest situation Colin Firth could have gotten out of when it came to like, oh, they're about to disclose everything. I was like, this feels like the easiest one to get out of right now. Like at any moment, you're trying to make sure they stay away from the internet. But right now, you just have to like break that camera and then they're done. Like that's all you have to do. Like get a bat and then you're good. And so that part felt a little odd. But those are my only gripes with the movie. I really enjoyed this movie.
Good. I'm ready to move on. You guys?
Yeah, I don't got anything else. We talked about the reality of it all, but yeah. So on to the award season.
Apparently they strayed off course, and we're fairly certain they're in guerrilla hands.
So why don't you use the regular army? What do you need us for?
Because some damn fool accused you of being the best.
Did you look at who goes first? It's the guy who made the sheet. That was me. So my MVP for Disclosure Day is obviously Emily Blunt. We didn't talk about her much. I mean, not specifically, at least during the action, but I really do think she carries this movie. I think she like cycles through these like different revelations and languages and knowledge and all the stuff that she has. It's like kinetic in like a facial expression dialogue sense, and it's a lot of fun to watch. I think she really is like, I don't use this term a lot, I'm gonna say outstanding. I think she's kind of outstanding in this movie, and I will actually flat out say this movie does not work without her. Maybe they would have found someone who would do almost as good of a job and it could have been about the same. I don't know if you would have gotten better by subbing someone in for her in this movie. I can't really imagine a better version of this role than what she gave here. So I'm Emily Blunt, easily MVP of Disclosure Day for me.
I'm going to go Coleman Domingo. Like I said, he was a welcome presence every time he was on screen, but he also grounds the movie in a way that his character just invites you into the movie.
It's a great voice. He's such a good voice.
I immediately, when I think of him speaking, I think of his SNL monologue where he's talking about what he's known for, and he goes, "When you come to my house, the vibes are amazing." And that's his whole monologue. It's about how he loves the vibes. But yeah, I thought he was great, and I think we got the perfect amount of him. That being said, I wanted more at the same time. But also, I did want to give a small shout out to, where is it? Where are my notes? Her name.
Your mind.
Courtney Grace. She played the anchor at the end of the movie.
What is this with you picking two MVPs?
It was a shout out. You can still
do it at the end.
I will say the line that got me, like I felt myself tearing up, is after she's delivered all this and she goes, "You are not alone."
That's not the line I thought you were going to say.
That's the themes, yeah.
And that hit something different.
She does another line where she says, where she's like having a hard time describing what's going on. And she's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm experiencing this right alongside of you." And so like I was like, oh my God, like that was.
And so, she's crying on camera. So she's like trained to like apologize for crying on camera.
We as Americans do not like to see women crying.
No, it's got to be a man that brings the news.
Hide those emotions.
I'm going to pick David Koepp as my MVP. As I said, I really enjoyed the movie. I really like the story. I honestly wanted to pick Steven Spielberg. I've already picked him, so I can't. But he is the 100% MVP. Cole, you were the only one that could, and you didn't. Complete miss. But the friend of the pod, Jack, who I saw this movie with, said, "You know what? I bet that Steven Spielberg, it like came to him in a dream or in a vision or something, that last 30 minutes of the movie, you know, when they get to the news station and they're like about to launch all the stuff, like all the news and let it know. And he probably had that montage in his head. And then he went to the studio with it and they were like, great. Now make it a full story. And so that's kind of the way this movie was made, because he was like, that part was really, really good. But I still really like the story. I think David Koepp did a great job. And even though there were some parts that were not necessarily perfect, I think that's what makes art, man. You know, the imperfections. So
yeah, I've always said that. Is art the best part about art is when it sucks. That's the best part.
The imperfections, the review section
says that they insist on outside opinions.
What kind of opinions?
Well, your kind, not to put too fine a point on it. I mean, let's face it, in your particular field, you're the top minds.
What do you guys think Wyatt Russell did? You know,
dude, I love Wyatt Russell. We did not talk about Wyatt Russell, but I love Wyatt Russell. Him and his dad are the best father-son combo in the game.
What do you think he did to get Margaret's And he goes, what?
I'll tell you what, the real MVP of this movie, specifically with Emily Blunt, and then bring it up, is her little like weather shimmy that she does. The little rain shimmy or whatever they were talking about.
Hail shimmy.
Her hail shimmy. That's what it was. I saw it 3 weeks ago. Give me a break.
I was loud during that part in the theater.
Sir, stop barking.
And friend of the pod, Jack, after the movie, he was like, I didn't know you liked Emily Blunt that much. I was like,
don't think I knew either, honestly. I'm excited to watch Devil Wears Prada 2.
I didn't know how to hold myself accountable.
Sir, you're going to need to leave the theater.
On to the review section.
Devil Wears Prada 2. Cole walked out of Disclosure Day screening, walked right in the Devil's Wear Prada 2.
Cole, what did you think of this movie?
Quiet Place 3 with our cup runneth over.
I just can't handle it. Cole, what did you think of this movie?
I think I just keep exiting out for some weird reason.
We do not believe you. Stop lying.
Stevie.
Hate it.
Yes, still got it. 4 out of 5.
Cole did not write a review section. That's read between the lines on that one.
Thank you for putting a lot of work into that. While it didn't convince me of either, Disclosure Day didn't shake my belief that aliens can exist or that Steven Spielberg can still make a great movie. 3.25 out of 5.
It is hard for me to get a sense of an overwhelming emotion in a movie, and this movie definitely delivered on that. Steven Spielberg comes back with another alien movie and delivers. 4.5 out of 5.
Play the Corey had the highest rating sounder.
And let's go through and rank our 5 Steven Spielberg alien movies.
Did you? I put that in the document as a little clever little wink. The 5 Spielberg movies that we've covered. Who would like to go first?
I would like Cole to go first, or else he will not be able to name the 5th.
Go ahead, Cole.
I'm going to be able to.
It's actually extremely easy if you applied 5 seconds of thought, but go ahead.
I'm thinking Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Right. So there you go. You got it.
Okay. I'm going to go E.T. Highest or lowest to highest. Right?
Just do it.
Lowest to highest.
E.T. at the lowest.
Crystal Skull.
Yep, 5.
Crystal Skull at 5.
What a picture.
Close Encounters at 4. Disclosure Day at 3. War of the Worlds at 2. And E.T. at number 1.
Zach,
I feel like Corey's going to have a fun one, so I'll go now.
Yeah, why don't you go next?
Number 5, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. 4, Disclosure Day. 3, Close Encounters. 2, War of the Worlds. 1, E.T.
I think we're all pretty in lockstep with number 5 and number 1. So I'm going to... Crystal Skull is definitely the worst one of the 5. Number 4, I'm going to put Close Encounters. My thoughts were made pretty clear on that one when we talked about it. I had a lot of frustrations with that one. Number 3, I'm going to put War of the Worlds, and then I'm going to put Disclosure Day at number 2 and E.T. at number 1. E.T. is by far and away the best one of the 5, but Disclosure Day is sitting well, and you know what? Usually you guys talk me out of something, or if we're on the podcast and you guys don't agree, I'm talked down, but I am dug in deeper. I think this hit a chord inside of me that it's just some people have and some people don't, and that's okay because some people like some things, and I like this. So I am going to put Disclosure Day as my...
Some people like some things and I like this. Yes, put that on a hat.
This is my second favorite Steven Spielberg alien movie. On to the post-credit scene.
You're still here.
It's over. Go home.
So we've kind of just recently talked about a movie and a show we've watched. I've been watching The Bear. I'm not quite done with it still. I've been watching Rick and Morty. Didn't say that. It's fine.
Rick and Morty forever and forever, 100 years. Rick and Morty.
New season coming out right now. So yeah, it's fine. I don't know if I really liked the last episode, but that's okay. They're really leaning into the anime aspect of it, which they did like a whole. They did a whole Rick and Morty anime.
They did a spin-off for that. Yeah.
They did. But I think whoever did that also works on Rick and Morty, and I think they really, really liked it. I think they really liked when they were working on the anime show, and so there's a lot of crossover stylistic wise. But yeah, I haven't been watching a lot of movies. Been kind of busy, so I'm hoping to get back into that because things are starting to slow down just a tiny bit. So yeah. Anything else for you guys?
I've been rewatching One Tree Hill. It was a show I watched with my big sister and my big brother when I was younger.
That's great. We're very proud of you. Zach?
Bros.
No, I see him moving.
I think my internet might be too bad for me to answer this, but I'll try.
Go ahead.
You can say it.
I'm going to say, just to keep it relevant to what Cole said earlier when he was talking shit on Robert Zemeckis, I watched a Robert Zemeckis film I had not seen called Death Becomes Her. Ooh, really good. So funny. My favorite Meryl Streep performance. That's all I'll say. A lot of fun. Really funny. Bruce Willis, Goldie Hawn. Really fun.
Interesting. Okay.
Ties into Wyatt and Kurt Russell, because that's Wyatt's mom.
I'll have to. That's been on my list, so I'm going to have to watch that one. But anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Like I said, if you can see this one in theaters, definitely go see it in theaters. If you can't go see this in theaters, go try to watch a different Steven Spielberg alien movie on any streaming platform because he knows how to do it.
Not Crystal Skull.
You know what? If that's what you got, that's what you got. We can't kink shame. But from our movie podcast to yours, Merry Christmas and Happy 4th of July. Bye.
Peace.